pricing an artwork, but if you're talking about an A plus grade artwork, price of the artwork is what I am willing to sell it at, and you're willing to buy it, right? So at some point of time,
that's such a good position to be in, Sanya.
sometimes it's a very difficult position
I
to
can
be in,
imagine.
and there are a lot of arguments.
You know, the Mona Lisa has been this revered painting in the world. Everyone goes to see it. Why do you think it became that famous? It's shocking.
That's a very interesting story behind Mona Lisa. We take the example of the Taj, 2611.
Yeah.
So again, when you compare the Indian art market to the Chinese art market, 30 years back they were at the same level. When we look at it from that perspective, there is so much that we can do.
Hi everyone, welcome to No Idea Whatsoever. I have Sanya Anand with me today. She is a co-founder and COO of Art and Beyond, an art gallery based in New Delhi. She, with her sister Shreya, represent the third generation of a family deep-rooted in the art culture of India, a part of Delhi Art Gallery. Please welcome her today and listen to what she has to say about art and conservation. Hi Sanya, welcome to No Idea Whatsoever.
Thank you, happy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for coming. My first question always to everyone is, did you know what you were going to do when you grew up, or did you have no idea whatsoever?
Actually, I did have an idea what I wanted to do. I think when I was in about class 8th or 9th, I knew that I wanted to get into the art field because that's what I've grown up seeing. And in the summer breaks, I started going to the galleries, I started going to museums, I started interning with, art critiques, restorers. And that's when I realized that I wanted to get into the art field and I wanted to do something different. So I thought I wanted to get into art conservation, and which is what I did. Yeah.
But tell me, you mentioned that you started going to art galleries and museums. That's not typically, well, you do have some exposure to it, but not always. Did you have exposure to that because of your family, or like how did you get exposure to art galleries and museums at such a young age?
Definitely because of my upbringing, because of the gallery, because our family has been collecting art for the last almost 4 decades now, from my grandmother to my uncle to my dad to now myself and my sister.
Yeah.
So this was a very common thing. Even when we would go for holidays, going to the museums was something that was a part of the plan from the start, So everything else was secondary, making sure that initially it was boring because we were teenagers.
Yeah.
So,
I can imagine.
yeah, but you do somewhere take on to things, dinner conversations, having auction catalogs around you, looking at bidding, auctions, all of that. So somewhere, yes, you do. It does sort of rub onto you, and that's how. I was sure that this is something that I want to do.
And you're now the third generation taking this legacy forward.
That's right.
With Art and Beyond, of course, which is part of. Is it part of Delhi Art Gallery, or it's a completely different thing that you and Shreya have started? Your sister.
So of course it's under the same family umbrella, but it does have a different entity altogether. We also deal in different sort of artworks.
Okay.
So Delhi Art Gallery is not a gallery anymore. It's more of an institution. It does a lot of work with the government. It's DAG's bought Jamini Roy's house, and they're converting that into a museum.
Wow,
that is
where is that?
Yeah, it's in Kolkata.
My God, that's amazing.
DAG is more of an institution now.
Yeah.
And Shreya and I, when we came back after studying, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to do something that was that could cater to the younger crowd.
Okay.
So that's how Art and Beyond started. However, it was very organic. It wasn't like we had to put in a lot of thought. It was very natural. Art and Beyond is an extension of us.
So, what do you think, Art and Beyond has that other art galleries don't have?
So one of the main differentiators would be that we own all of our art, So we have a very large inventory, and not all of that is done by us, We are the third generation, so we've got a lot in our legacy. And that's what differentiates us from the others. However, we don't do contemporary. We don't do emerging contemporary. We don't do established contemporary artists. We do more of moderns. So, as we already know that not a lot of them are around us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we bought and collected over the years. And that's
Sanya,
what
you know,
makes it
one
different.
thing I need to ask you is what is the difference between modern artists and contemporary artists? Please, this is something I think everyone needs to know.
It's yes, it's a very basic question, and we get asked quite a lot. So it's a misconception that today is modern, but no, today is contemporary.
Okay.
Modern is to explain it in a very basic way.
Yeah.
Artists that were working or were born before independence are classified as modern artists, and the artists who are working today are contemporary artists. So of course there is that 10 years or 15 years in the middle which overlaps.
Yeah.
But then again, it's everyone's perception. It's how the artist sort of classifies themselves.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah. But overall, that would be the difference. So we get a lot of people who come and say, I want modern art, thinking it's today's art, but that's not true.
Okay. So who are some of the modern artists that are, I think, known all over the world?
In India?
Yeah, Indian modern artists.
So again, when we talk about modern, there are three sects in India. One would be the Bengal school.
Okay.
One would be the artists from Maharashtra, mostly Bombay, who would be the progressives.
Okay.
And then there is a third school which is from the south.
Okay.
So these would be your three sections from the modern art. And contemporary is today's art. So artists who are working today, they could be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s also.
So tell me, obviously there are artists who are sitting at home and painting and who are extremely, talented. And then how do you get recognition as a contemporary artist in today's day and age?
So now things have really changed. There are a lot of fantastic galleries that represent emerging artists.
Okay.
So
which ones? Could you name some?
There is Art Incept. There are many. There are very many. Lado Sarai has a lot of that. Is like a gallery hub.
Yeah.
For emerging artists. So there are a lot of artists, a lot of galleries that do showcase. There are a lot of artist grants, which was not there.
Government grants?
There are government grants. There are a lot of personal gallery grants as well. So that really helps. That changes a lot. There is a lot more representation. Social media is something that has really changed the game. Now the younger artists don't really need that gallery representation. They are out there. Yes, and I think that is a prerequisite of any business in today's time. So,
and what is tell me one memory that you have of your family's journey that really inspired you to say, this is what I'm going to do forever? Aside from visiting museums, you mentioned your grandmom started collecting art.
She did, and very interestingly, I don't think she really thought of opening a gallery. She was a people's person. She used to love meeting people, having conversations, and she started buying art to help these artists initially, right?
Okay.
So a lot of them would come, spend time, and art about 30, 40 years back, there was no monetary term attached to it, right? So a lot of them were trying to survive. A lot of them were trying to earn their bread and butter.
Yeah.
And there were very few galleries at that point of time. So a lot of these artists would come speak to her, and she would be like, okay, fine, I'll buy these works. And slowly she started collecting a lot. And eventually she thought that, okay, fine, we need to open a gallery. And that's how Delhi Art Gallery was formed.
But how did she get in touch with these artists who she thought needed help? How did she end up finding them, or how did they find her out?
So my dadi was very enterprising. She used to go meet people. She started her own business where she would make furniture from tires.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of
creativity.
A lot of creativity. So that's how
she was attracting creative people.
Yes.
Amazing. That's so you. Did you get to spend a lot of time with her to talk about art? Did she?
Not really. These are mostly stories that I've heard from my family, from my dad, from my chachas.
Okay.
She was very creative. I don't remember her much at home because she was always out. She was always meeting people. She always had artists over, friends over. She loved entertaining. and she passed away really young
Okay.
due to an illness.
Okay. Sorry about that. But it's amazing that you've inherited this gene, this art gene in you. So once she passed, did you really? When did you realize that this collecting art, which she started, could turn into a business? Who decided that? Did she start the gallery?
She started the gallery.
And she called it Delhi Art Gallery.
She called it Delhi Art
Wow.
Gallery. And my Jaju, Ashish Jaju, is the one who
Took that legacy.
forward.
Okay.
Of course, that is a part of it, but Dad has other businesses as well.
Yeah.
So primarily him, he's the one who took this forward, and that was, I think, in 1993, 1994.
Okay.
And we were much younger.
Yeah,
then.
yeah, of course.
So yeah, I think when I was about in class 8th or 9th is when I realized that I want to get into the art business.
Yeah. And you went to College of Arts in Delhi, and then you did your conservation in the UK.
That's right.
Did you think that doing art conservation was an essential part of running and managing an art gallery?
Well, that's an interesting question. I didn't think I would open a gallery.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to do art conservation. I was very sure of that. I wanted to apply for that after schooling, and I realized that that's a master's program. So I had to have an undergraduation.
Yeah.
And to do your master's in conservation, you have to have an undergraduation in either painting or science, and I was like,
That's a prerequisite.
art. Yes, art.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, science is out of the window. So I will do my undergraduation in painting. So I went to College of Art. I was pretty much the worst in my class.
Worst in terms of drawing.
In terms of drawing and painting and all of that. So I can't paint to save my life.
Okay.
But what I learned in those 4 years was a lot more deeper.
Yeah.
So I learned art history.
Okay.
I learned the materials, the paints, how the canvas reacted to a lot of things. So it was very different from just sort of looking at something and painting it and all of that. So that really helped me. And then I did my master's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about this art history and how, what was the moment where, you saw that paint touch the canvas and be like, wow, these are things that can be created, because there's so many different textures. People do textured art, we see. What are the different types that really you discovered?
So I knew a lot of that before,
Okay.
the basics I did. Of course, the technical education I got when I went to college, but I knew the difference between oil paints and acrylic and watercolor and what are the different supports. So there's canvas, there's paper, there's printmaking. I knew all of that beforehand, but a lot of technical knowledge is what I studied in college, and which is very, very important.
Okay.
Apart from that, there's a lot of history of art, right? So understanding, you don't start from modern, you start from prehistoric,
Yeah.
from
Cave painting.
Indus Valley Civilization, Ajanta, all of those things is what you study in college, and that helps you a lot.
Absolutely.
So the depth of what you're dealing in, it's not just buying and selling and making money, but there is so much more that you represent when you are in a business like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a form of storytelling almost, right? Like when an artist comes to you or goes to a gallery, how does a gallery select an artist? Just based on their work? Is there a because now whenever you build a brand, everyone talks about having a story that's important. So do these artists really have a story?
So art is storytelling. There is nothing much to it, right? It is the story that is told by an artist through his artwork. It's the story that is told by the gallerist to his collectors or clients. It is the artwork, the story that a museum is trying to represent and tell everybody. So art is storytelling in different perspectives. Again, it's a very interesting thing. No art is looked the same way by two people, right? When the artist made the artwork, he had a different thought.
Okay.
And when per se I see the artwork, I will have a completely different thought, even though I can see that there is a mountain and a cat and a bird, but I will perceive it very differently.
Yeah.
Right? When you will see that, you will perceive it very
Yeah.
differently. So not two people see that same artwork the same way.
But tell me, there are these random auctions that happen where like just one large canvas with one dot or something. I think there was, I remember reading about it that there was one artist who sold, his vision was that there was nothing, it was just an empty canvas that went for millions of dollars. How does that work? Like, what is the reason behind this madness in the art world?
So that's very interesting. So this all comes under contemporary art, right? This is and things are changing. Everything is changing in today's time, right? So
Yeah.
we are all deviating from what the traditional
Art
forms were. Not only art, in every way, right? Look at media, look at AI,
Yeah.
look at all of those things.
Yeah.
Look at currency in today's time. You have cryptocurrency, which is online. Who would have thought of all of these sort of things? So everybody's trying to think out of the box, and that's what's
by not
happening.
painting of anything as a painter.
Well, yes, and there are a lot of people who have a lot of money.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, when
That's
you,
good for you.
yeah. Well, yes, of course. So
But tell me, do people think buying art is an investment? Like now, a lot of young people are, purchasing powers have gone up. People are buying homes, and therefore they need more art. I see that a lot of people want to buy art, but they don't have any knowledge. So, what advice would you give to someone, who's a first-time art buyer and is looking at aesthetics and also appreciation?
so coming to your question, the first half of it, art definitely is an investment. But I wouldn't say art is only an investment, right? You live with art every single day of your life. It's very personal.
Yeah.
Art is very personal and very subjective for it to be seen only as an investment. And we're not dealers here, right? That's a different thing altogether. Today we're buying art for ourselves to see, to enjoy it. And how many assets are there that you can enjoy every day of your life,
Yeah.
right? You've bought some stocks, you have them in your portfolio. What are you doing about it? You've bought some land somewhere
Land
500,
somewhere.
600, 10,000 kilometers away. But are you enjoying it? No. Art is something that you're enjoying every day in front of you. So looking at art only as an investment, as an asset class would not justify the
Fair enough. I think, yeah, absolutely. You have to be interested in, you see so many paintings in people's houses, and some people truly love it, but some people have just purchased it as probably an investment. And then after a point, they get bored of it,
So a lot of times, for new buyers, art is an investment, and there's nothing wrong with it,
Yeah.
right? That is your first stepping stone. And once you start doing that, once you buy 1, 2, 3, 4, you see the money coming in, you see how the art market is growing, you get interested in that. It's very difficult to sort of
Get
pull
away from
yourself
it.
out
Yeah.
of it. Definitely art collecting is a passion, and there's nothing wrong with, if you want to start for that monetary reason.
Fair.
See that, and it's how they say, शेर के मुंह में खून लगना.
Yeah,
So the
that
art
is-
world is very similar to that. So once you start purchasing once, twice, you see auctions, you see records breaking every month, and then you're like, wow, what is this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And how do first time purchasers think of which artist to buy? How do they decide that? Like, is there any guide they should follow? What is your advice for them?
There is no guide, but there are galleries, there are auction houses. See, there is a lot of study that goes into it, right? You can't just go. It's not like going shopping and being like, oh, I like
Yes.
this top and I'm going to buy it, right?
Yeah.
There has to be little more education, little more understanding. There's no harm taking in hell, going to galleries, going to museums, see what you like. But that's very important. Even today when we go shopping, we know, okay, we like this and we don't like this, right? So we need to do that. We need to educate ourselves a little more before just going recklessly and buying something
Yeah.
and being like, okay, great. Of course, it's okay to start with, especially when we are looking at emerging artists. The price value is not very high. So if there is something that you like, pick it up. But then don't look at that as an investment.
Okay.
Because their career is very short-lived. They've only worked for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, right? So you don't know how their trajectory will be. Will they continue painting
Pursuing
for
it,
for long? So there's no harm going and buying what you like. But of course, it has to be backed with a lot of data, study, and that's why there are so many organizations there to help people.
And obviously, once you buy art, there's a lot of, I guess, over the years, conservation required.
Right.
What do you think India? We have, I mean, some of the most beautiful architecture, art, everything. How is India in terms of conservation compared to other countries in the world, European countries?
Compared to other countries, when we talk about conservation in India, there is a lot of scope.
Okay.
Right? A lot of awareness needs to
Happen.
Yeah. But there is, of course, a section of gallerists, collectors who understand conservation, who understand that it's very important to conserve your art. Not only art, I mean, for everything, right? I'll give an example of the Taj Mahal in today's time, right? It is a UNESCO site. People come from all over the world. But if periodical conservation, preservation, all of those things are not done, it won't stand for what it is. It will deteriorate in time, right? So the value of what it is today will not be the same. So it's very important to make sure that you're taking care of your possessions, even your body for that matter, right?
Yeah.
Even your body deteriorates. So you have to make sure you visit a doctor, you have the right kind of medication, and wherever needed, there is little patch up here and there, and that's how things survive in today's time.
And they have to go to someone trusted, right? For even their personal paintings.
Definitely. Now, again, when we talk about conservation, there are two verticals. One is preservation and one is restoration.
Okay.
Preservation of art is making sure that your art is kept in the same way that it is, right?
Understood.
Making sure that the lighting is okay, making sure the humidity is okay in a room or where it's kept, or if you have a larger collection, then, whichever go down or wherever you've kept your works, all of these sort of things, cleaning them. There's a lot of dust in India, in Delhi especially, so making sure that that they are cleaned periodically, taken care of, they are packed in a proper way. So all of that is preserving the artwork. And then there is restoring the artwork, which is more scientific, which is more invasive in a lot of ways, where the artwork is damaged, if there is fungus on the work, right?
Wow,
so you can't
catches
just
fungus as well?
Oh, a lot, especially in places like Mumbai and, closer to the sea, humidity is higher. Goa, so when the humidity is very high, you do get fungus. You get a lot of these sort of things. A lot of times, paintings are damaged. Let's take the example of 9/11 at the Taj, right?
The 26/11.
Yes. So, what did I say?
9/11.
So
that's fine.
Just cut it.
Yeah, 26/11 at the Taj.
Yeah. So if we take the example of the Taj, 26/11.
Yeah.
So, again, Tata Group has one of the best collections in India, right? And you can see all of that when you go to their hotels.
Yeah.
And it was a very unfortunate incident, and a lot of the art was damaged.
Oh no!
A lot of it, there were bullet holes, there were blood stains, all of that, and that all had to be restored. So that is not preservation; that is restoring it.
Okay.
Trying to get the artwork close to what the artist had created it to be.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And are there any guidelines? Say, for example, I have a canvas in my room. You mentioned lighting. Like, what do you mean? What kind of lighting is good in order to... What are the tips to preserve artwork?
There are very basic things. Making sure it's not under direct sunlight. So pigments do fade. If it's paperwork, it's damaged a little more than canvases, all of that. So direct sunlight is something that you should definitely not place your artworks under or in front of.
Yeah.
A lot of people place artworks under the AC. But there's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong in that.
I better remove all this before you kill me, since some of your paintings are hanging in my house.
So, nothing wrong in that, but you have to be mindful. So if something happens, you have to sort of, have that in the back of your mind.
Correct, of course, that the minute the AC starts dripping.
Correct, exactly. Don't let it be there.
Yeah.
Change in temperature. So, a lot of times, Delhi gets very hot, and then you switch the AC on and then you switch it off. So there's a lot of condensation on the painting. So, all of these things sort of matter. Not that you can do a lot
Yeah, of
about it,
course.
but it's just good to be mindful.
Okay.
Cleaning your painting.
How do you
There's
clean
lot
a
of-
canvas painting yourself?
That's a little tricky.
Yeah.
So again, not all paintings are the same, right?
Correct.
A lot of them are layered. A lot of them are in pastel works. So you cannot sort of use a cloth
standard,
or a standard thing. So maybe when you're buying an artwork, it would be a good idea if you ask the gallery how to do it, and they'll be able to tell you, right? A lot of times what we do is we use, the fur.
Those feather brushes.
So you sort of just do that.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
The
but you have
soft
to
ones
do
that
it
won't
yourself.
damage, yeah.
Periodically.
Yeah.
Or a lot of companies we do that. So a lot of clients who have a larger collection, we do send our team and they do the basic cleaning of the works.
And how often is the cleaning required in India, in Delhi?
About once a month.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you'd say like once a year or something.
No, that would be but just for the dust and dirt, about
fair.
once a month cleaning the frame,
To
just
increase the
dusting.
longevity of
Correct,
the... Fair enough.
exactly. And then there is something like, all works usually have a protective film on it, which is a layer to protect the paint,
artist
which
does
is
that?
mostly the artist does
Oh,
that.
wow.
So over
I
time
didn't know that.
yellows. Yeah. So over time that yellows,
Okay.
right? Because that has a life, but it stays for good 10, 20, 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
depending on the artwork and what period it was. So the quality of the varnish that they used. So that is something that has to be sort of, and you will see the difference when an artwork's varnish has yellowed. There is a yellow tint on the work, right? So that has to be removed, and a new layer is
And that's done by galleries.
That's done by a restorer,
Wow.
a conservator.
Yeah.
Basically.
So your gallery, or you would be able to do that.
I would be able to, but I don't
Personally.
Personally,
Of course, you have experts.
No, not only that, but I don't. I've studied art conservation,
correct.
but I don't conserve for clients.
Okay.
We have a large inventory of our own, and I have a team, and we do the conservation. We do more of the preservation for our works, and if there are some artworks that do need restoration, then we send them to restorers.
Okay.
It's not possible to do so much. There's already a lot on the
I
plate,
can
and
imagine.
we have an extensive body of works.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
In
I
our
was going to ask
gallery
you,
collection.
how many paintings do you have?
Many.
What is the range of the...
A couple of thousands.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible. And they're all hanging, or they're kept safely somewhere?
No. So we have places, not one. We have works in our homes which are on display and which are not for sale. We have a private collection which is not for sale. Then we have a gallery collection which is for sale. Then we have a lot of artists we've bought over time, but we are not planning to have an auction. No, we are not planning to do an exhibition on them at this point of time. But we bought them 30 years back, so you have to sort of take care of those as well. They're only going to deteriorate, right? So all of this takes a lot of time
and effort. I can imagine.
Yes.
But tell me, I remember a couple of years ago you done a show at the Red Fort.
That's
remember?
right.
What was that?
DAG did that show.
What was that show? Was it only DAG, or were there multiple galleries that exhibited at the Red Fort?
No, it was only DAG.
And was it government initiative?
It was.
Tell us about.
There were different barracks, and one of the barracks was done by Delhi Art Gallery at that point of time.
No, was it just to promote artists, maybe increase like the awareness of art for general, or like could anyone come for those exhibitions?
Yes, it was open to public.
Okay.
It was open for the public to go and view all of these works, which was a great initiative on the gallery's part. That's why I say Delhi Art Gallery DAG model now is not really a gallery. It's doing beyond what a gallery does. If you see the kind of publication, if you see the kind of exhibitions, the curation, there is so much that goes into it. There's so much education.
I was going to say, you started an education initiative as well, right? Under Delhi Art Gallery.
We have.
Yeah. Okay. So, one question that I think everyone wants to know is, how does art get valued? Like, you have one painting that's selling for 5 lakhs, one that's selling for 30 lakhs, one that's going for tens of crores. You have your Raja Ravi Varmas and your M.F. Husains and your Razas, at least some of the artists I can think of. I mean, I personally love Raza, Souzas. How has art been valued over the years? Like, who decides that this is how much this artwork is going to cost?
That's a very interesting question, and that's a very long answer. I can't give
all the time.
Two-point replay. So every artwork has history attached to it, right? One of the easiest ways to see what the artwork should be or what the range would be is to follow the auctions, because that's the only transparent data that we have, and it's accessible to everybody.
Okay.
Now,
which auctions? Like, are there any official auctions that you could?
Yes, of course. We have Christie's and Sotheby's being the largest, who do have auctions of Indian artists only. Then you have a lot of
Indian-based auction houses.
Yes. Yeah. So we have Asta Guru, we have Saffron, we have Pandol, and these are great auction houses, and we have more smaller ones as well coming in. But so following these would help you a lot to figure what the value of your artwork should be or what the estimate should be, right? Okay. But again, every artwork is so different. It's not like you're comparing apples to apples, right? You are comparing one artwork to another, which is so different. So today, even if you're comparing a Hussain to a Hussain, every piece is so unique.
Yeah.
It was done at a different point of time. It was done in a different period of that artist's life. It could be on paper, it could be canvas, So all of these things matter. Then there is authenticity. What kind of documentation comes with the artwork?
Copywriting.
Correct. Authenticity, copywriting, documentation, publication. Was it published? That sort of adds to the value, to the authenticity of the artwork. Then quality, right? So every artist sort of has a period in their life where I can't say was better than the other period. That would not be right, but
very unique.
So pricing art is not as easy as it seems, right? There are a lot of
It seems absurd to me.
Yes, there are a lot of parameters that you have to see, and you're not comparing an apple to an apple, right? Even when we take one artist's artwork, it's not the same. There's a different time period, there's a different thought, there's a different feeling that the artist has sort of put in that one canvas, which would be different from another. So all of these things matter. Then there is documentation, making sure that what kind of paperwork comes with the artwork. Is it published? All of these things matter. And then there is, of course, the auction records, right? So that is that's transparent data. That's for everybody to see. It's with everyone, right? So comparing with the market trends, which we get to know through the auctions, recent auctions. So that's how all of these things are sort of looked into, and that's how the pricing is done.
And there's like a governing body that which keeps changing
over time. There isn't.
So it's just based on what's been happening over the years, and
it's been based on what the clients and collectors want.
Have been paying.
Right, correct. And having said all of this, pricing an artwork, but if you're talking about an A+ grade artwork, you can't price that artwork, right? Okay. The price of the artwork is what I am willing to sell it at, and you're willing to buy it for, right? So at some point of time,
that's such a good position to be in, Sanya.
Sometimes it's a very difficult position to be in, and there are a lot of arguments between our family, because there are a lot of works which we've had in our collection for very many years, and maybe I value it differently, and Shreya values it differently, right? So I'll be like, okay, fine, I'm okay to let go for so much, and she's like, no, I am not. So again, the value fluctuates quite a lot. So you can't price it and say, okay, this must be for so much.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't matter what we say. It matters, the pricing would be what the client or the collector is willing to pay for the work, and what I'm ready to let go.
Fair.
So that would be the correct sort of
assumption
answer for the question that you've asked.
And tell me, the Mona Lisa has been this revered painting in the world. Everyone goes to see it. Why do you think it became that famous? Don't like it's shocking.
It is. So again, let's come to the point of storytelling. What the point that you touched upon before, right? So every artwork has a story behind it. And there's a very interesting story behind Mona Lisa. There are so many speculations about it. You know, is it a man? Is it a woman? Does it have eyebrows? Does it not?
Controversy.
Is it sad? Is it happy? So I think all of that also sort of adds to it. So there's a lot
the
of
mystery and the enigma
correct.
behind it. Yeah.
Exactly. One is that, then it was stolen.
Stolen,
The
I
artwork
remember,
was stolen, and then it came back. So you know, all of these sort of things add to
The narrative.
the narrative and why an artwork is worth what it is today.
Yeah. And these days you have so much social media, so many things are, we're living in the world of AI, everything is so, there's very less, I think, authenticity left in a lot of creativity as well. How important is it for artists to have their own personal style while painting?
It's very important. I think that's what makes and breaks the game eventually, right? Every artist has their own language, has their own grammar, and that's what they're recognized for. So today we like an artist. I mean, today when we look at a Raza, we know it is a Raza.
Yeah.
Why? Because there is a language
Similarity.
which has evolved over time. An artist's own language also evolves over time, but it does not change the narrative completely, right? And that is something that only comes with years and years of experience. For example, I'll give you an example of this artist called Gogi Saroj Pal, right?
Okay.
She has a series called the Kinnari series.
Okay.
She's a feminist artist. Unfortunately, she's not with us anymore.
Okay.
And the Kinnari series was on a bird.
Oh wow.
Okay. So she had a surgery and she was recovering. So she couldn't do big canvases. So during that period, her canvases became smaller, or she started working more on paper. And her bird also recovered with her. So when you see and you follow the series, the bird starts flying by the end of the series when she starts recovering and walking. So, there are these small things that influence the artist, their journey, how they are feeling at that point of time, what they are going through in their life,
Yeah.
So the style, the subjects, all of those things matter. Even Sousa, for that matter, he did a series called the Black series. It was it was paint on canvas. It was all black, right? He did that for about 2 years. It was a very tough period in his life, and you can see that reflect in his canvas.
And I think, tell me, most of the artists during their lifetime are not very rich.
Yes.
And then suddenly when they pass away, they're like worth millions of dollars. Why is it like that? Why can't whoever these people are who decide the value of the artwork, let them enjoy it during their life?
Well, that's not entirely true. It's not a yes and a no question. In olden times, artists were struggling to survive, right? So at that point of time, money mattered a lot more. Okay. So they were okay with all of that, and art wasn't as evolved, right? So there were representations, but it wasn't to that extent. In today's time, a lot of contemporary artists, because the art market has evolved so much, right?
So much.
Look at the value of a lot of these works. So a lot of artists, for that matter, today, you look at Anish Kapoor, he's, Subodh Gupta, their market, their prices are
through the roof. Yeah. I think he broke all records, right, Anish?
He did. Look at so many contemporaries. Look at Atul Dodia, all of them. Look at Madhvi Parekh, in the last 4 or 5 years, she collaborated with Dior, and look at her prices today. These are some examples of the living artists who have got that kind of recognition, success, money, everything. However, having said all of this, yes, there is some truth in once the artist passes away, the prices do, but that's very, it's very temporary.
Okay.
Right? Just because an artist has passed away doesn't mean his work becomes great. His work is what it is, right? It depends if the collectors or if the market is willing to buy. So when that happens, it's a very short span where everybody feels like, oh, okay, the demand and supply
Okay.
and all of that. So now, there won't be much supply. So let's start buying. And there is an influx in the price. But we've seen a lot of times that comes down. It
Okay.
comes down and sometimes it goes lower than what it was. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So that's not entirely true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now, of course, you see, India has its own tribal art forms. There's Gond, Madhubani, Vichwai. How does that fit into contemporary art galleries? Are art galleries really promoting these styles of work?
They are. Yes, there has been we've seen a change in the
Yeah.
last 3, 4, 5 years. We see artists like Jangad performing better than a lot of the contemporaries in today's time, and modern for that matter. It's going 10 times the estimate that the auction would have given or
Estimated,
presumed.
yeah.
That it would. You have artists like Lado Bai, Puri Bai, all of them. They are coming to auction houses. People are looking for them. There are a lot of galleries that only represent these artists. So the narrative is changing, and when a collector has a collection base, right, a collection of their own, it's very important for them to also have these artists, because that's how it sort of makes a whole collection.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's some more, I guess, variety to the collection as well then.
Yes, that's what makes it wholesome.
And what do you think of digital art now in India? Is that really picking up? Street art, digital art? What are your views on digital art? You're very pleased.
Well, do I understand it? No.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you think it'll also gain that kind of momentum in terms of appreciation, value appreciation?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't understand it personally, so I don't have much of an opinion on it. But do I think it will? Maybe it does. But we've also seen things like NFTs, crash so badly.
Yeah.
So I can't say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And street art, what is your view on that?
There isn't much street art in India yet. When we see that in the West, we don't see that here.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is picking up slowly.
It could. Pop art, street art, all of these things. Our generation is changing so rapidly with media, AI, all of these things. You never know. I mean, tomorrow art could be you enter a room and you
visualize whatever you want.
Yeah, and come out and be like, that's art, and it could be. Why not? I mean,
absolutely.
It's looking into deeper into yourself and perceiving what you want to, and come out and be like, wow, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So anything could be art as long as you understand it.
And do you think an artist is born, or do you think an artist is created over time, or do you think both?
I think a little bit of both. So we have had artists in the past who have started painting from the age of 3, 4, 5, right? Because they've seen art around them. So somewhere it does add to your it comes from your upbringing or what you've seen around, and then sometimes you realize that later. So you study and you see and you do you paint and you're like, wow, this is something that I like, which is how hobbies are born, right? So eventually a hobby can become a career if you give it that much, if you give it that much education time and all of that. So both ways, yes.
And a lot of children, of course, paint. How can parents help them do it in the correct way, rather than say, okay, just go, or is it okay for them to just send them to any art class and just say, yeah, go?
So I have a 4-year-old child, 5 now, sorry. So we send him to art classes, we send him to football classes, we send him to karate classes, because that's something that he wants to do, right? And eventually something that he wants to pursue, we will push him to do that. Today, is it okay for me to say that I want my son to become a footballer, or I want him to learn golf, or I want him to learn art? It's very subjective. For some parents, it's okay to sort of push your children in a career that they want, and some parents want to give them the free hand and be like, okay, fine, you figure it out, and we are there to support you. So I would say it totally depends, but yes, not so much as a career. I feel exposure is very important, and that is something that we as parents or everybody should provide their children.
Yeah.
Tell them, take them to museums, take them to galleries. It's very important. How many of us have been to NGMA? How many of us have been to KNMA once, maybe in school for an excursion?
Yeah.
That's not enough. That's not enough. Today, if you're learning cricket, you have to keep
Going.
You have to learn.
Absolutely.
It can't be a one thing that, okay, I've been to KNMA once in class 8 or NGMA once in class 4 for an excursion. It's not like that, So somewhere we have to take that onus of teaching and exposing our...
and building consistency, I think.
Building consistency, of course. All of these things are very important.
And which art institutions in India are highly renowned and worth going to?
One of the biggest private museums that we have is the Kiran Nadar Museum of Art, and it's there in Noida and in Saket, and they are opening one in Delhi in next year. They do some fantastic shows, some beautifully curated shows that parts a lot of education. So definitely that should be one. And they do a lot of shows every 2, 3, 4 months. There's a new show. So definitely should go visit those. The National Gallery of Modern Art does a lot of shows. They represent artists. The National Gallery of Modern Art does a lot of retrospectives on amazing artists. So that is something that everybody should go see. Take your kids. It's okay if they understand or they don't, but that's something that will... It's culture, right?
Culture,
and it's also culture. It's very important to know where we are coming from.
Yeah.
And art is something that shows the journey, right? From where it started to now, when you see the Ajanta caves, you see the miniatures, you see the traditional art forms, and now where we are coming, where we are going. In terms of, like you said, a dot in a canvas, So it's very important to see the trajectory of everything, and it's important to know our roots.
And you and Shreya, of course, have been running this art gallery as women. How is that? Do you see that you are very strong women in this space, or is it still quite a male-dominated area?
Very interesting. So people would think that a lot of artists are women, but it's actually male dominated, right? There are more number of male artists than women artists, but there are more number of women gallerists than male gallerists, right? Of course, Shreya and I, we are both women, and we can see that gap. And we try to do as much as we can by showing more women artists, representing them. In fact, we did a show 2 years back, which was on women artists. So we are trying to do our bit.
And how do people find out about your shows that you do? Do you really publicize them on social media?
Social media being the key, yes.
And they're open to everyone to come.
Yes, of course there are. So mostly there are always previews, and then it's open to public.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, Sanya, what does art mean to you on a professional and a soul level? Like, how do you feel about art?
For me, art is home, because I have grown around art. I have seen art, so it is my safe space. And it's very emotional. It's beyond just looking at art, but there are pieces that we have grown up with. So they're a part of our childhood and adulthood and even more. So definitely art is my safe space. That's what I connect to. That's what it strikes a different chord. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite artist and a favorite painting?
Indian or
Any.
international? Well, Indian, I would say it would be F.N. Souza for sure. And international would be Francis Bacon.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, if you see, their works are very similar, right?
Okay, so you have a style that you...
Yeah, there is. I think I'm drawn to that, So it's not the pretty sort of art. It's more gruesome. It's more trying
quirky.
To see what the artist is showing, So, yeah.
And how is sustainability now, which is being talked about all over the world and so important tied into art forms these days? Is there any correlation? With fashion also you see sustainable fashion, and that's where I'm coming from.
There are artists who work on sustainability, but there's a long way. There is a lot of scope, and I primarily deal in modern, so I don't know much about the contemporary side of it. But yes, sustainability is a big thing in a lot of. I don't know about artists so much, but when we talk about the running of a gallery, that's what we do, right? Everything is becoming digital, so you're working
Saving
a lot.
paper,
Yeah, like all those smaller sort of things. Yeah, you are working on. Yeah,
okay,
of course.
And tell me, if someone is an artist, for example, but that's not how their career turned out in terms of finances, what other options do they have in the art space to pursue?
There are so many. Of course, being an artist is one. Curation is very important. So you can become a curator, you can work with a gallery, you can work with documentation, research, all of these publication. So you can do so much more. So you are still connected to art, but you are doing a lot.
Yeah. And obviously, in order to become a gallerist, you need to own a lot of art yourself?
Not necessarily. So we own a lot of our art.
Yeah.
But a lot of galleries, majority galleries, they work on commission basis, right? So you take from the artist, and then you, if the work sells, you take a commission. And so that way it's a win-win for both.
Yeah. So, how would you describe the Indian art market? Do you see it growing exponentially over the years?
Definitely. We've seen the art market grow in, of course, so many years, but something like COVID, even in the pandemic where people were struggling, industries were struggling, art was at its peak, and it is only peaking, right? Every auction we see records being broken. This year we've sold the most expensive Indian artwork in the world, which is an artwork by Hussein, which sold for 119 crores, So this is
who bought that?
Mrs. Nader. Mrs. Kiran Nader bought it. Yeah. So, things like this give the collectors the confidence. It gives people the confidence that, there is scope. And there is a lot of scope, right? The Indian art market is not even 1% of the global art market.
Really?
Yes, that is the statistic. And some of the artists are at par, if not better, than our international artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there's no reason for... our economy is growing, right? So all of these things will add to the growth of the Indian art market. Today, the market is about 3,500, 4,000 crores. And in the next 10 years, we are looking at the Indian art market to be around 10,000 crores. So that is the growth. That is the runway that we have.
And there'll be a lot more artists coming up as well. You see, is this a lot of people are choosing art as a profession now?
Yes, definitely. We can see a change in that as well. Again, when you compare the Indian art market to the Chinese art market, 30 years back, they were at the same level. Today, when you look at the Chinese art market, it has grown multiple folds. It is the second biggest after
the US.
After the US,
Yeah.
So when we look at it from that perspective, there is so much that we can do.
But why do you think that's happened? Why do you think the Chinese art market, when we were similar 30 years ago, has grown so much more than the Indian art market?
We're a very young country. So our art is growing, our country is growing, and with all of that, there will be a change for sure.
And I think one important question that most people ask is, a lot of artworks are not allowed to leave India.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So why do you think that is? If I purchase an artwork, why can't I put it in my house abroad?
No, that's not with all. That's with a few.
Correct.
Yes, artists who have who are known as the national treasures. So they are a part of the heritage of our country, and we don't want to let them go, because you don't know if they'll come back or not.
Yeah, so you buy the artwork and then you leave it. They own it abroad, but it's in India.
Yes, correct. Of course, you can always loan it to museums. You can loan it for shows.
So do museums pay them for this artwork to display them for, say?
No.
It's all.
Yeah, it's all, but that's very important, right?
Correct.
Today, I might have a great artwork at home, but who's seeing it? I'm seeing it, my family's seeing it, a couple of friends, a couple of guests, but the world is not being able
Yeah.
to see it, right? So when we put it in a museum, there are people who can see and appreciate it. And why not? The artist has given their entire life in creating that one piece. So it should be appreciated
Yeah.
by everybody. And there's so much learning, right? Only when you see it will you learn from it as well.
And art has always has been looked at as a creative profession. You know, those creative professions that are not money making professions. Is that narrative changing now in schools where, because see, a lot of times I feel students are pressured to take certain career options because money is guaranteed. Whereas in art, money is not guaranteed. How can school owners or teachers change that narrative to make the students comfortable that, listen, if this is your passion, pursue it? Because I know everyone says pursue your passion and money will come, but that's not necessarily the case. Let's be honest. But how can they change this narrative to allow students really to
I think it's not only with art. I think it's with everything. I
Of
also
course.
feel it's with parenting in today's time, right? Not everybody's like, you have to become a doctor or an engineer. There are so many things that have opened up, and art is one of them,
Yeah.
right? Today, again, I would say that when we see the market, when we see paintings selling at the value that they are, that somewhere does give the confidence to a lot of people that yes, this is a career that you
can
should.
take.
But a lot also depends on yourself, right? As an artist, how serious you are. You can't have 3 careers and be like, I do this and that and
Yeah.
that, So all of
So
that,
you have to dedicate all
you
your
have
time.
to. You have to. So I can't talk so much about contemporary, but when you see modern, I think none of the artists really had 2 careers, barring maybe 1 or 2. This is what they did. This is what their life was, and that's what you can see in their works: happiness, misery, what they went through. So that's where the skill comes. That's what you see. That's what you feel, and that's what commands the price.
And how do you think AI will impact Indian art
It's
or
a
art overall?
very interesting question. So I think definitely AI will impact. Am I a fan of AI? Not really. I don't understand it much. I think it will definitely change a lot of other aspects in terms of documentation, differentiating between an original work and a fake, all of those sort of things. I'm sure a lot of artists will use AI to create art as well. But personally, I feel that art is something which is done by hand, right? And you can see that, and that will not come with something that is AI generated.
Yeah.
It won't be the same.
But are universities and schools now teaching how to use AI in art? Has that started the module or not?
Not so much. At least not in India.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Sanya. It was lovely to have you.
Thank you. It was a nice chat.